Thank you. Good evening, students. Good evening, Miss Samrita. Good evening, Miss Gulika.
Recording
Yes.
in progress.
Good evening, Mr. Ram. Good evening, Miss Kavya. So, this is a LVRC, which is a live revisionary virtual classes for the batch of May 2026, right? So, we'll be discussing on the provisions which are relevant for May 2026. Okay. Yes. Good evening, Mr. Priyam, Miss Almaz, Miss Sindhu. Very good, very good. I've seen some students who have attended my regular classes, and here you are again for the revisionary classes, which means that yes, you have completed your regular classes, you have gone through the subject, so it becomes easy to catch up for the revisionary classes, right? So we are revising it. So the objective of these classes is revising three topics. Otherwise, we would have taken six topics for these 6 days for these sessions, right? Because there are three topics we will have to cover. But in today's sessions, this is being a revision. So we will take a revision of these classes and not a detailed class. So students who are expecting for Jan or May, so the classes for this is for Jan as well. Yeah, this is for LVRC for January 2006 as well. So it is basically for Jan and May, but students of May will be still undergoing some classes. So for them, it will be different. So this is specifically for Jan 2026. Thanks, Ram, for correcting there. So how is the level of your preparation? How have you done? Because that is very important to proceed further. How much have you studied? Based on that, we can proceed now. Yeah. What is the stage of your preparation now? If you've completed everything, you can tell that. If you have not completed, then our intensity of the important topics will be different. Otherwise, if you have completed, when it's revision, we will just go through in a quicker manner so that we can complete the whole topics. But if you have not started studying yet, you're starting now, right? Then we'll go deeper into those topics which are important. Yes, I'm waiting for your response. Completed module 1. Okay. I have given September 25. So now I'm quickly going through the syllabus now. A few topics, EABL and returns is pending. Okay. Very nice. Good to hear that. Okay. So kind of mixed reaction, I would say. Mostly few students are saying, yes, they've complete around 70%. Okay. So that gives a clarity that most of you have completed the topics what we are going to discuss today, right? So it will be only a revision. So you are well aware of the topics. You have heard them, you have learned them, and here you are trying to revise it so that you are confident for your exams, right? With that objective, we'll start today's session that yes, you are going to take this as a revision for the revision of whatever you have studied, right? That is the objective here. So we'll start with a quote: the best preparation for tomorrow. Okay. We always think that, okay, I'll do this tomorrow. I'll read this subject tomorrow. This theoretical thing, I'll do it tomorrow. Today, I'll do practical. Everything we think about procrastinating, right? We always think that we'll do it tomorrow. So the best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. You can't just leave that, okay, tomorrow I'll do something. Tomorrow I will prepare. Tomorrow I will do the charting. Today, let me take rest. Today, my day is very bad. No. The best preparation for the next day is always doing your best today. If you're doing today good, right, then your tomorrow also will be good. So don't kind of procrastinate. Do your best today. Your tomorrow will automatically be best. Because if your mindset is good today, then your mindset for tomorrow also will be good, right? So the best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. Do your best today. So your tomorrow and every other tomorrow will be good. Okay. With that positive note, let us start the session. So we know the basics of GST, right? In basics in GST, we'll spend very less time. We'll go into the constitutional aspects. That's very important because these basic aspects we know, right? That we have direct tax, we have indirect tax, and a tax on tax also, right? In the direct tax, when we say we have income tax, we have the corporate tax, which the companies pay, same taxes what the companies pay. The act is same, but on the corporate, it's called as corporate tax and agriculture tax, which is kind of indirectly levied, right? In your income tax, you would have studied that. In indirect tax, we have two taxes. All the pre-GST taxes have been subsumed. Now you have only GST, and along with GST, you have customs duty, right? Only two things you have. One is GST and the customs duty. Customs duty is applicable on all the import of goods, right? And for import of services, we still pay the GST. And you have a concept of tax on tax, which is the surcharge and cess aspect, which is a tax on the tax as well. Okay. Why is it called direct tax? Because the incidence is borne directly. You earn salary, you pay the tax. You earn bank interest, you pay the tax. You sold your property, you got the profit, you pay the tax. So the burden is on the person who gets the profit, right? So it's a direct tax. And indirect tax, it is a person who is consuming and the person who has to pay are different. So incidence of tax is shifting. Even though the tax is borne, you're not talking about tax who's bearing it. Tax is ultimately borne by the end customer. But the incidence of the tax is shifting to another person. That is, it is getting shifted from the person who is ultimately bearing it, but the incidence is shifting to the person who's collecting it. Excuse me. The shopkeeper who sells it, right? He is not bearing it because he will collect it from the customer. But he has to pay to the government because he is the person who is held liable, who is accountable to collect the taxes from the end customer and pay to the government. So the incidence of tax in an indirect tax regime is shifting to another person and not to the person who is bearing it. When you're buying a book, a pen from the shop, the shopkeeper will sell you the pen with the MRP, which means it will include the tax. You are bearing the tax, but the incidence or the responsibility of paying that to the government is not on you. It is getting shifted to the shopkeeper. Okay, that is the main difference between direct tax and indirect tax. Other things are fine that it is progressive, as in when your income increase, your taxes increase. But in indirect tax, it's not the same because if a pen is worth 10 rupees being sold to you as a student, and if it is sold to a person who's not having money, or it is also sold to a person who has abundance of money, right? The tax doesn't shift; it will be still be the same. So that's why, as and when the income increases, the indirect tax doesn't increase. That's why it's called as opposite. It is not progressive in nature; it is regressive in nature. Right. The examples of direct tax we know is income tax and indirect taxes, GST and customs duty. All these pre-GST taxes are got subsumed. We know the structure, or we know the history of GST. How did the GST come on the 8th July? It didn't come so easily. It had to take a lot of efforts, right? It started in 2000, went on to 2006, when the announcement was made in the union budget. Just an announcement, then the first paper was released in 2009, then constitutional amendment bill, right? This is important that a constitutional amendment bill itself was passed. Why a constitutional amendment is required? We have a discussion there also saying that why is the amendment required. We will see that there is an amendment which has happened. We will see that yes, why was this amendment required? But for now, let us remember that constitutional amendment bill was introduced and unfortunately it was lapsed. So the first constitutional amendment bill, if you have been asked any MCQ or a question saying which was the first constitutional amendment bill which was introduced, you will mention it is 115th bill. Okay. But after the 115th bill, it had some time limit within which it should get converted. It should get passed in both the houses. Since it did not get passed, then they again had to bring the bill. So that was the Constitution 122nd Amendment Bill. First, it was 115th Amendment Bill. It did not get passed. It was lapsed. Then they came to Constitution's 122nd Amendment Bill, which was introduced in the Lok Sabha. After that, then the Constitution 101st Amendment Act was enacted. So the changes, the Constitution amendment happened through the Constitution Amendment Act, but the bill will be 122nd bill. Okay, there's a difference between the bill and the act. Okay, after that, what happened? The council meetings happened, then the lot of recommendations happened, the operations of the act, rules all came in. Jammu and Kashmir was outside the GST. They said we will not opt in. After GST was launched, within 8 days, they also said no, we will also come into the GST. So on 8th July, 1st July, GST was effective for all the states except Jammu and Kashmir. For Jammu and Kashmir, on the 8th July, it was extended to Jammu and Kashmir also. So that is how the GST history is taken place. And very important thing is that during the session, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands. If you want to ask the question or type it on the chat box, the objective of this session is not to just teach you like a normal classes. It is also to solve all your queries. So during revision, if you have any queries, it will also help the other students that you can ask your questions. Okay, you're free to ask any question related to the topic of our discussion. Okay, so that's how the history of GST was important. These dates are important. Yes, it is important because it could come in any of your multiple choice question also. The concept of GST in India is very simple. The concept is that it is a tax on the value addition. Okay, not that on a fixed price without any value addition GST will be levied. No, GST is on value addition. Whatever value is being added by the supplier, on that taxes are being collected. It is a continuous chain of tax credit because supplier A sells to the customer B. Customer B will again sell it. So he will get the credit of what supplier A has charged it. And when he sells, he will also pass on the credit. So there is a continuous chain of the tax credits. Okay. Always the chain continues. There is no kind of breakage unless there is any exempt supply, right? Because on exempt supply, we know that the credit cannot be passed on. So there is a breakage. Otherwise, the chain always continues. Then the burden is borne ultimately by whom? By us, right? It is borne by us. We are the final consumers, but ultimately we bore the burden. And there is no cascading of taxes, which means there is no taxes on taxes. And there is no duality of taxes, saying that you have to pay two types of taxes. No, that is not required. So there is no cascading of taxes also. Fine. So that is the concept of GST in India. Some we are aware of it, so we don't have to get into how is GST calculated because we have reached a stage wherein how to do the GST calculation, what is the best way to claim the input tax credit, all of that we have discussed, so that we don't have to get into in detail. Sir, can we go with questions of chapter 1 and 2 like previous year MTP, RTP case scenarios? Okay, so that will be taken up, Gayatri, in the problem solving session. So these revisionary classes are not meant to solve those questions, right? What we can do is we can take up few MCQs at the end, like some 20 minutes we can take up for the MCQs. But the guidelines given is to take a revision and not to take up those questions. So we will go with the revisions here. Thanks for posting your concern. That's really helpful to all the students. What is the framework of GST? Yes, there is dual GST, CGST, and SGST, and there are four types of taxes which has been levied. That is when you have transaction between state one to state two, from one state to another state, then you charge IGST within the same state. Then you have CGST and SGST. And when it is always import from a foreign country to your state, always a scenario of IGST. That is, whenever you are importing, then you pay IGST. When you're exporting, also, if there is any tax, you will pay IGST tax. Okay. So, and within the state or within a union territory, it will be CGST and SGST in case of a state. In case of a union territory, it will be CGST and UTGST. Clear? Legislative framework, we have seen that CGST is a single legislation for levying GST. UTGST is for union territories with legislature, and SGST is for individual states. Each state has their own SGST Act. Very nice. Then that's the legislative framework. Then is classification. Now classification happens through HSN and SAC. What is HSN? Harmonized System of Nomenclature for Goods, and SAC is Service Accounting Code for all the services. So that is the how the classification happens, because now some rate has to be fixed. You cannot decide the rate based on some criteria which is different. So there has to be some uniformity. That uniformity comes through this HSN and SAC codes. Okay. So every kind of goods will have a HSN, and the rate is decided for the HSN. Now within that HSN code, you may have subcategory, you may have different colors, different varieties. But if the HSN is same, the rate of tax will be same. Okay. So the rate of tax is decided based on the classification, and classification is driven by the HSN and SAC codes. Okay. SAC is for services, it's called Service Accounting Code, and HSN is for goods. Registration, very important. We know that registration is required. What is the threshold limit for registration? 3 categories, right? How do you remember this? First one is 4 states. 4 states is, I remember it by an acronym called TNMM. TNMM, T.N. Manoharan sir was very important, was very famous in our days. So I still remember him. So I say TNMM for the first category, wherein the threshold is 10 lakhs for services and for goods both. So if you cross 10 lakhs in these states, then you have to register for GST. Now TNMM starts for Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur. TNMM, Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur. These are the 4 states where you will have to register for GST if you cross the threshold of 10 lakh rupees. Second category of states is where the threshold, each state has a different threshold. So for the second category of states, if you cross the threshold limit of 20 lakhs, you have to register. These second category of states are the acronym is, what is the acronym you have used? UP must. UP must hai. Uttarakhand, Puducherry, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and Telangana. That's the acronym I use for the second category. अगर UP must है, तो category है second category. There the limit is for goods and services both. If you cross the limit of 20 lakhs, then you have to take the registration. And third category is all other states. Apart from this 4 plus 6, 10 category of states, other states and union territories will have to take registration if they cross a limit of 20 lakhs for services, and if they're dealing in goods, just 40 lakh rupees. For goods, it is 40 lakhs, and for services, it is 20 lakh rupees. Okay. So that is the limit for taking up the registration. Then we have a composition scheme. We'll come to the composition scheme. We have a different discussion on chart of GST. Exemptions are available. There is always seamless flow of credit. Why? How is it seamless flow of credit? When you have CGST credit, you can offset it against which credit first? Against which liability can you offset? So in your electronic credit ledger, you have Central Goods and Service Tax ITC of CGST. You can utilize it against payment of what? Correct. Very nice. Sindhu, first IGST. No. First, you will utilize with CGST itself. If you have the CGST credit, utilize it against the CG itself first. First, utilize it against CGST. Then you utilize it with anything else. First, right, CGST, first utilize with CGST. If something is left out, then you utilize it with IGST. Don't first of all use CGST completely with IGST. Utilize CGST with CGST, then with IGST. SGST, if there's any credit, utilize with SGST, then with IGST liability. IGST you will utilize first with IGST, then with CGST and SGST in any proportion. Clear? Okay. GST common portal is there for GST returns, registration, filing appeals, claiming refund. You have a common portal for GST. For e-way bills, we have a different portal. And for invoices, e-invoices, we have a different portal. Okay. Then you have a concept of GSPs and ASP, wherein any connection, any linkage between the GST returns and your systems can be had through these GST service provider or additional service provider. They are the GSPs and ASPs. Compensation cess will be levied up to 31st March, right? So up till 31st March 2026, we'll see compensation cess. After there will not be any compensation cess. Next part is very important, wherein tax on goods or services will be exception to levy of GST, which means that GST is levied on everything except these products. Now, what are these products and why they are exempted? Because there is another tax, like alcoholic liquor for human consumption. On that, there is no GST, but on that, state excise and VAT will be levied. So, even though we say old taxation has been completely gone, but actually it is not completely gone. On some products, these old taxes are still levied, right? Well, what are those products? Exactly what we are discussing here. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption. If there is a alcoholic liquor for human consumption, GST is not levied, but the state excise is collected and VAT is being collected. Whenever they sell, they have to pay the state excise and VAT. Five petroleum products: petroleum crude, diesel, petrol, air turbine fuel, and natural gas. On this also GST is not levied, but central excise duty and VAT is levied. So central excise duty, central government collects, and VAT state collects. Both of this is being charged. Then on tobacco products, again central excise duty and GST. On tobacco, both central excise duty and GST is levied. On opium, Indian hemp, and narcotic drugs, here also GST is levied and state excise both are levied. And on immovable property, no GST. So definitely, when you're selling any property, no GST. But when somebody is doing a construction, a real estate developer, he is doing, then GST is leviable because he's not completed the construction. So he's providing you some activity. And we know GST is on supply of both goods and services, right? So on such immovable property under construction, GST is levied. But when the property is completed, sale of land, sale of completed building, no GST. So what we have to remember, four things: alcoholic liquor for human consumption, you have the state excise and VAT. On five petroleum products, central excise and VAT. On tobacco, central excise and GST. On opium, Indian hemp, and narcotic drugs, state excise and GST. Clear? But sir, land development on immovable property has GST. Yes, exactly. Because the land development is different and the land is different. So land development, the GST still wants to charge GST. So on the development portion, it will continue to levy GST, not on the completed portion. Clear, Ram? Now, getting into the constitutional provisions. Okay. Wherein we know in a constitution, how has it been decided? The Indian constitution is decided in a way such that you have the union government, which is the central government, what we call, and we have for each state the state government, and we have a local government also. because within the state also the local municipality has to run lot of activities they have to do. So they are all run by the local government. Okay. So we have this structure of the constitution wherein the government has been defined in three categories. Okay. Then Then we have the Constitution. Now, Constitution has various provisions, various articles and schedules. Important provisions which we have to read. Like, why is the provision of the Constitution important? Because you want to have your fundamental rights. You have to go to the Constitution. If you want to have a safety, liberty, right? All of that, we will get it from the Constitution itself. That's why Constitution is important, because if there was not mentioned in the Constitution that you have a freedom of speech, you would not have had a spoken you cannot speak now. You cannot speak anything in public. Of course, in privacy, you can speak. In your private places, you can speak. But in public spaces, if you speak anything against the thing, like I've seen in few places where countries where it is run by kings, they do not have a right of speech. That if they want to do any dharna, any strikes against the government, saying that no, you're not doing, they are not permitted. सीधा अंदर डाल देंगे, saying that no, none of these is there. But luckily, because of our constitution gives us the right freedom of speech, freedom of expression, democracy. So we are able to do dharnas, we can go on strike, saying that I have a right. Those rights are coming from the constitution. Similar to those fundamental rights, we have some rights under the taxes wherein it says that Article 265, the relevant provisions, because इतने सारे 440 तो articles है, उसमें important articles relevant for GST is Article 265, which prohibits arbitrary tax collection. मतलब without any authority, they cannot collect any tax. So they have prohibited arbitrary tax collection through Article 265. The Article 265 says that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of law. बिना लॉ के अथॉरिटी के आप कुछ भी टैक्स कलेक्ट नहीं कर सकते हो. Without the authority or the right given to you, you cannot collect any tax. Like this example of Lord Krishna sugar mills, the sugar merchants had to meet some export targets. And if they didn't meet the target, the local body was collecting some additional amount. But they did not have power. These people, these sugar merchants went to the court and said that what is this being collected without any right? So it went up to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court has to decide that anything what this government is collected, right, for meeting the sales target. I am not doing anything, but I'm not meeting the target. So उसके लिए जो भी tax collector, is it correct? They said no, no such authority is given to them by the constitution. There's no separate act which has been passed. Just because they have a target to meet that their exports should meet, they are collecting these things which is not correct. So they struck down. मतलब उनको क्रैश कर दिया कि जो भी टैक्सेस के नाम पे आपने कलेक्ट किया है वो टैक्स नहीं है, उसको आपको रिफंड करना पड़ेगा. वॉट एवर यू हैव कलेक्टेड दैट इज इलीगल कलेक्शन. ठीक है. तो सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल 265 जीएसटी भी अगर कुछ भी लेके आना है तो उसका अथॉरिटी होना चाहिए, वरना जो भी कलेक्शन कर रहे हैं दैट बिकम्स इलीगल. So Article 265 says that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of law. Fine. Levy refers to imposition of tax when all taxing ingredients are found to be present in a transaction. Okay. Levy refers to imposition of tax. Now, when we say levy, where is the right to levy? Levy means imposing of tax when all the taxing ingredients are found. Key. It should have the 5 ingredients. It should have a taxable event. It should have a tax measure, rate of tax, and the person who shall pay the tax. अगर ये 4 ingredients है, then it means that the taxing ingredients are present and the tax can be levied. So Article 245 says that the Parliament has the power to make laws for the whole or part of India, firstly. Then the legislature of the state, right? What did we read? We read Article 265. Now we are reading Article 245. Article 245 says that the Parliament has the power. Okay, Parliament has the power to make laws for the whole of India. पूरे इंडिया का लॉ कौन बनाएगा? सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. That is through a parliament. Parliament will be Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And for each state, there will be state legislature. They will make law for each of the states. No law made by the parliament will be invalidated due to extraterritorial operation. किसी दूसरे कंट्री के ट्रांजैक्शन के लिए इंडियन गवर्नमेंट टैक्सेस कलेक्ट कर रहा है, तो इट विल नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट जो भी टैक्स कलेक्ट करेगी वो कुछ सोच समझ के करेगी, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई दे हैव सेड एनी टैक्सेस व्हिच इज कलेक्टेड बाय द पार्लियामेंट will not be invalidated because you are having some link, like जैसे import पे हम लोग IGST चार्ज करते हैं, so somebody can contest तो supplier तो outside है, तो मुझे क्यों import के ऊपर पे करना पड़ेगा? But they said no, article 245 ये प्रोविजन देता है कि एक्स्ट्रा टेरिटोरियल है तो लॉ इनवैलिड नहीं होगा. ओके, इट implies that then we are saying that parliament can also make laws and state government also make laws, which means that स्टेट गवर्नमेंट भी कुछ पार्ट के लिए लॉज बना सकती है और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट भी कुछ पार्ट के लिए लॉज बना सकती है. ओके, देन आर्टिकल 246 it says that it provides authority to union and state government for levying tax. अथॉरिटी पावर कहां से आता है? इस आर्टिकल से आता है. आर्टिकल 246 provides authority to union and the state government for levying tax. So Article 246 में क्या गया है? Article 246 is saying that okay, state government you can make taxes and central government you can make laws for taxes, right? So then they gave saying that okay, these two people are fighting, central and state. The constitution makers first itself anticipated that there'd be a fight between the central and state, so let's divide it. So they made three lists. First list was called first list one, which is the union list. List two was the state list, and list three was the concurrent list. So in the list one, the union list, they said following entries can be levied by the central government. So list one was the exclusive right of the central government. List two was the exclusive right of the state government, and list three was the right of both central and state. Right? Now, when these three lists are there, when we are coming to our topic of GST, GST is levied under which list? Is it list one, list two, or list three? Yeah, I need answers from you. GST is levied on which of these lists? Very few answers. Ram is saying list one, Mr. Sid Sangni is saying list three, Gayatri is saying list one, Khushi is saying list three, Almaz is saying list three, Sindhu is saying list three. Okay. Such why list one? People who are saying list one, they're saying that only central government will be collecting GST. तो फिर SGST क्या है? आप कुछ भी सेल करते हो, जब CGST SGST दोनों पे करते हो. सो अगर सिर्फ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के पास पावर है तो फिर SGST कलेक्ट ही नहीं कर सकते. करेक्ट? So list one definitely is not the correct answer then. Second question, second answer what I'm receiving is that it can be list three. लिस्ट थ्री में कैसे हो सकता है? बिकॉज लिस्ट थ्री विल टेक ओनली दोज केसेस, लाइक स्पेसिफिक केसेस की स्टैम्प ड्यूटी है, राइट, वेर इन द प्रोमिनेंस विल बी अगेन विद द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. दे विल मेक द लॉज एंड द कलेक्शन विल हैपन बाय द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट विल नॉट हैव एनी से. जो भी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट बोलता है उसे फॉलो करना पड़ेगा. सो अगर ऑलरेडी आर्टिकल 246 में ये तीन चीजें हैं तो फिर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट वाज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड देन. बट we know that as a matter of fact, there took so many years for constitutional amendment, which means that there is some lacuna in this, right? there is some lacuna in this. That's the reason Article 246 was not for GST, though not only in 2017, it would have come in 2000 itself. But there was a requirement for amending the constitution because this article did not have the power of duality, saying that center and state you both collect. This did not happen. List 1 was only for central government, list 2 was state government, list 3 was, even though it called as a concurrent list, the power was with the central government and collection was the state government, but they wanted where both center and state will have the same power. That's the reason they said that Article 246A will not help. They amended the constitution and added a new article called Article 246A, wherein the power to levy GST was given both to the central government and state government. Okay, very correct, Apeksha, that the power to collect GST is not under any of these lists of Article 246. The power to collect GST comes from Article 246A. वहां से power आता है भाई. Okay, don't get confused with these lists. Neither in the union list, neither in the state list, neither in the concur lists, they have a power to collect GST. GST has to be collected both with this joint power, and that joint power is given through an amendment in the Constitutional 101st Amendment Act and Article 246A, which gives power to collect GST both by the center and state when it is an intrastate transaction. When it is an interstate transaction, definitely IGST will be collected. Now, what amendments they brought? Firstly, Article 246A, as we had seen, wherein the power to make laws with respect to goods and services both was there under Article 246A. And here, important joint power is given to the central government and state government through this Article 246A. Right? Then came Article 269A. Article 269A A जो है मतलब amendment है. First there was Article 246, then 247. But they wanted to amend something and bring a new article. जगह नहीं था because 246 के बाद 247, that serial number got continued. So they brought one in between 246 and 247 and called it as 246A. So Article 246A gave power to make laws with respect to goods and services, which gave joint power to the central government and state government. Then we had Article 269A, wherein levy and collection of GST on interstate supplies, because intrastate के लिए तो Article 246A है, but interstate के लिए है, और import के लिए they brought in Article 269A, and they also brought 279A, wherein they brought in a new body called as GST Council. Why was this required? Because both central government and state government has to decide something. Now, how can they decide? Can they have all the states meet together? Yes, through this GST Council, all the states can meet and arrive at one consensus. That's the reason this GST Council was formed. Okay. Now we'll get into each of these articles. 246A says nothing contained in Article 246 and 254. Parliament and legislature of each state, matlab central government and state government, will have the power to make laws with respect to goods and service tax which is imposed by the union and state. So joint power is given through this Article 246A, and Parliament has the exclusive power to make laws with respect to goods and services where the supply of goods or services takes place in the course of interstate sale. So they said any intrastate sale, both central government and state government can make the laws. But if it is interstate sale, only central government can make it. Because multiple states are there, multiple places you will deliver. Each state will have their own say. That's the reason one common body, which is the central government, will decide on the interstate transaction. Then, Article 269A said that levy and collection of GST on interstate supply, which said that goods and service tax on supplies in the course of interstate trade or commerce shall be levied and collected by the government of India, and such tax shall be apportioned between the union and state. Even though on an interstate transaction, taxes is being collected by the central government, it will be apportioned again. Collection body एक है ताकि झगड़ा नहीं हो, there is no fight. So collecting body is one, but distribution will happen between the union and state when after everything is apportioned, because you have IGST credit also, right? So from one state to another state, that credit will flow. After that, what is left out will be distributed between center and state. Then, where any amount is collected as IGST has been used for payment of SGST or vice versa, then such amount will not be distributed, will not form part of the consolidated fund of India. Matlab, it will not be used for distributing. That respective state which has used the IGST for payment of the SGST, usko credit mil jayega. Then Parliament is empowered to formulate the principles regarding place of supply, which means what is the place of supply and when supply should be taxable. The time of supply and the place of supply will be decided by the central government, right? Not the time of supply. It is when the supply occurs in an interstate transaction or no. To determine what is the place of supply and what is the definition of interstate supply is decided by the parliament. So they have given exclusive powers on deciding of the place of supply and deciding on the when the supply occurs in interstate trade or commerce is decided by the central government. Okay. Article 269A summary says that GST on supplies in the course of interstate trade or commerce shall be levied and collected by the central government, and import of goods is always treated as interstate transaction, and IGST is used for payment of SGST, then amount will not form part of the consolidated fund. Then coming to Article 279A, very simple. It says that GST Council will be formed. Who will be the chairman? The Union Finance Minister will be the chairman. Every state will have one member and everybody will have a voting right. So chairman will be finance minister and each state's finance minister or any minister which the state government represents will be the person in charge. Okay. That is all on the basics of GST and GST Council. So I think this is a little kind of overload. After stopping compensation cess, will there not be any GST Council? No, GST Council will still be there because compensation cess is one of the levies. But if the compensation cess stops, GST Council will not stop. GST Council will still do their activities recommending the rate under the CGST, SGST, and IGST because one of the act is gone wrong, but other acts are still there. CGST is there, SGST is still there, IGST is there, still there, and UTGST is still there. So the council will still exist. Okay. So I think based on your questions, there is a heavy load. So before getting into the topic of supply, we'll take up some multiple choice questions related to this topic. Okay. So that you're fresh and you can answer this. Which article? Come on, now you have to read this and give me answer for this. I need answer from everybody. Not Article 246, is it? Everybody started saying answer 246A, but is it correct? Yes, everyone is right. Just now what we had discussed that the power to collect GST is given by Article 246A. You're right. Next. So a lot of confusion here. 122nd bill lapsed. No, 122nd bill was not lapsed. 115th bill was lapsed. So which was the bill which was effective then? Many students are saying 101st. But the correct answer is not 101st, it is 122nd, because the amendment bill, there's a difference between bill and act. If they ask you through which act, then it is the 101st act. But since they are asking you bill, bill was 122nd bill. Yes, correct, Kushi. 122nd Amendment Bill, which got passed as 101st Amendment Act. So the when they ask for the bill, it is the 122nd bill. If they ask for act, then it will become 101st Constitutional Amendment Act. Good participation. Yes, question number 6. Tobacco and tobacco products. Yes, on tobacco and tobacco products, continue to be taxed both under the central excise and the GST. Tobacco and tobacco products. Next question. Right. We have seen the chart, right? If you have the credit of CGST, can be utilized first with CGST, then with IGST. Correct. Correct. It is B, simultaneously by the union and state government. Yes. Question number 9. Confusing answers. Yes, Sahib Kumar, you can unmute yourself. So you have to select A, B, C, D. You can't tell me taxes on lotteries or entertainment. You have to tell me A or B or C or D. B. You're saying taxes on lotteries and environment tax. No. The correct answer is A, which is what are the taxes? Various taxes have been subsumed, but following determine which taxes have been subsumed in GST. Basic customs duty has been subsumed? No. Environment tax has been subsumed? No. But taxes on lotteries, yes, that has been subsumed. So the answer is A, that only taxes on lotteries has been subsumed under the GST. Clear here? Subsumed का मतलब है that those taxes are no more there, and after GST came in, you are charging GST on it. So on lottery sales, we are charging GST. This one, yes. What tax was charged on lottery before GST? It was sale of goods. So sales tax was charged on lottery, Gayatri, not service tax. It was treated as goods. Correct answer here is both A and B. State excise and central tax and value-added tax is added. The correct answer is C for alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Not A, Baba. It is C. Okay. Now, I think after each of these chapters, if we take this MCQs, that will be helpful. So let's go to the next topic. Okay. Which is supply under GST. What is supply? Supply is the main event under GST. Like how you have taxable event under the pre-GST, that when you do a manufacture, when you manufacture something, then excise duty was payable. And when you do provide any service, service tax was payable. But all of that has got subsumed. Whether you manufacture, you don't manufacture. When you supply something, then GST is leviable. You manufactured, and when you sell it, that is when GST will be applicable. Earlier, at the time of manufacture, excise duty was levied, and at the time of sale, VAT was levied. But now there is no two events, one event itself. You manufacture, after manufacture, you will supply it. Supply could be sale or other 8 ingredients. What we are discussing under the chapter of supply, under the definition of supply, all of that will happen, right? So under the GST, the taxable event will be when you supply something, when you supply the goods, that will be the taxable event. Even if you're manufactured, not sold, no GST, because you will ultimately sell, no? That is when you will pay the GST on it. So the taxable event for GST is the event of supply. Okay. And the entire value of supply of goods or services is charged in an integrated manner. No bits and pieces. Manufacture पे एक, फिर sale पे एक नहीं. All of that is getting integrated. That brings us to important definition of the supplier. Who's a supplier? Supplier means a person who is supplying the said goods. And it also includes an agent who is acting on his behalf. So supplier in relation to any good shall mean the person who is supplying the said goods and shall include an agent who is acting on behalf of the supplier. So supplier can sell it or his agent can sell it. Both of them are treated as a supplier itself. If the agent is acting on behalf of the supplier, then he is also a supplier. Now, the next part is what is being highlighted in bold because this is an amendment. Supplier was simple, then they added this, that's why I've highlighted it. And any changes like this which has been brought in, we have to specifically understand that provided that a person who organizes or arranges directly or indirectly supply of specified actionable claims. Okay, now what is specified actionable claims? We'll see that definition first. Then this will help us. Specified actionable claim means the actionable claims involving in or by way of betting, casinos, gambling, horse racing, lottery tickets, or online money gaming. When you're doing any of these things, you are being called as a dealing with specified actionable claims. Actionable claim मतलब you have a right to take it. जैसे आपका lottery ticket है, you have bought a lottery ticket, right? Now, if you have won the prize, what will you do? You will go to the lottery person and say that give my money. So you have a right to claim that prize money, correct? So that's why it is called as a you have a right of action against him. You can take action against the person who's given you a lottery ticket और आपका lottery number लग गया. If the lottery issuer doesn't give you money, you can sue him, right? That is when it is called as an actionable claim. You can take action against him. There are so many actionable claims. Suppose you have sold something and the other person doesn't pay you money, you can take action against him. So there are various actionable claims. Usme se specified actionable claims only has been brought in here. These are the specified actionable claim which the government wants to tax. They've said that which are those specified actionable claims? Betting, gambling, casinos, horse racing, lottery, and online money gaming. These are the specified actionable claims which is leviable to GST. They are included in the definition of supply now when they say that provided a person who organizes or arranges directly or indirectly supply of specified actionable claims. When they directly or indirectly specify the supply the specified actionable claims, including a person who owns, operates, or manages digital or electronic platform for such supply shall be deemed to be a supplier. So the person who is having the website, who is doing all of these things, he is a supplier और उसको GST pay करना पड़ेगा. Because now in a lot of these casinos and online gaming was going, but whom should the government catch to collect the GST was not known. That's why they have included this in the definition of the supplier, and they've said that any person who is organizing or arranging, right, and including the person who owns, operates, or manages digital or electronic platform shall be deemed to be a supplier, whether such actionable claims are supplied by him or through him, and whether consideration is money or money's worth, including virtual digital assets for supply of such actionable claims is paid or conveyed. So, who is the person who is running it? He is a supplier. इतना बड़ा definition का मतलब कोई नहीं करता. Okay. So, GST on sale will be paid by the supplier, and GST on these betting, gambling, and casinos will be by the person who is holding it, right? क्योंकि they have to identify. क्योंकि मैं तो betting कर रहा हूँ, मैं जीत रहा हूँ. Can the GST collect GST from me? No. So that's why they've said go and collect it from the person who is holding it. Dream 11. Dream 11 में मैंने 1 लाख रुपए जीत गया. Who will pay the GST on this? Come on, tell me. On Dream 11, I have won 1 lakh rupees. For winning that 1 lakh rupees, I had invested 10 lakh rupees. Okay. Now the 10 lakhs is gone. I won only 1 lakh. Now who will pay the GST on this 1 lakh? Firstly, is the GST payable and who will pay it? Yes. Dream 11, but very few answers, but still, okay. Yes. Whoever have given the answer, Miss Pallavi, Miss Kavya, Mr. Ram, Miss Kulika, you're right. That when a Dream 11 holds this, they will have to pay GST, not the person who is winning it. Ultimately, the responsibility on is on Dream 11. They will collect it from me because I'm the winner. But that's the second thing. Ultimate liability will be on Dream 11 itself, right? So they will pay the GST to the government. That is how this, because they are the supplier. That's how you have understood the definition correctly, that they are the supplier. The supplier will pay GST to the government. Now, supply definition, we understand this, that just this definition, if you remember, it becomes easy. Supply includes all forms of supply of goods or services, such as 8 forms. It includes all forms of supply: sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, or disposal, which is made or agreed to be made with two conditions. It should be for a consideration. अगर आप supply free of charge कर रहे हो, on free of charge items, there is no GST, right? Where you're supplying something, collecting some amount, then GST is payable. If you're not collecting, no GST. So you have to collect something. So consideration is important first, and it should be in the course or furtherance of business, which means it should be for your business. If it's for your personal use, no GST. Then second, the activities or transactions by a person other than an individual to its members. Who will give it to its member? An association. So when an association gives services to its members, or the members give services to the constitution, then that is also supply of GST. So any membership club, right? Earlier membership club was exempted, or it was a confusion whether it was taxable or no. That's why they have brought in this provision saying that any association collecting fees from its members will be liable to GST. Then it also includes import of services for a consideration. So when you import something from outside India to India, that is for goods, definitely customs duty and GST will be there. But if you're importing some services, even if it is not in your business, if you're buying something, you're buying some services from outside India, if there is a consideration, you have to pay GST. Then the activity specified in Schedule 1, which is made or agreed to be made without consideration, they are also supplied. First, we said, what do we mean from here? Very simple, right? That first is, it should be supply should be of goods or services. It should be for consideration, and it should be in the course or furtherance of business. Two conditions. It should be for consideration, and it should be in the course or furtherance of business. Then the exceptions came in. Okay. So these two conditions are required, first line. Then if it is import of services, even if it is not in your business, still GST will be payable. Then if it is without consideration, but if it is in the business, still GST is payable when it is by 713, which is Schedule 1. Okay. Sir, a laptop for personal use which I buy is not in the course of furtherance of my business, but GST is charged because it is the supplier's business. It is not depending on the consumer. It is on the supplier. If you are selling this laptop again, Noram, then you will not pay GST because you are not a supplier of laptop. But for the laptop, it is always from the perspective of the supplier. Here, the laptop holder, the owner of the laptop, or the shopkeeper. For him, it's a business. That's why he will charge GST. Good question. Okay. So, first is any normal thing, it should be for consideration and it should be in the course of furtherance of business. Exception will be import. Import, even if it is not in the course of business, but you're paying something, then you have to pay GST. And then second exception is Schedule 1 items. When you are doing some activities which is mentioned in Schedule 1, even if there is no consideration, still you have to pay GST on those items. Then supply further says, where certain activities or transactions constitute a supply, they shall be treated either as supply of goods or services through Schedule 2. To classify whether it's goods or services, you have to go to Schedule 2. And then you have services which are specified in Schedule 3, wherein some activities, where is the Schedule 3? That which is not liable to goods nor services is given in Schedule 3. Okay. This is notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, activities or transactions specified in Schedule 3 and those which are notified shall be treated neither as supply of goods nor services. First is supply, then without consideration is Schedule 1, classification is in Schedule 2, Then Schedule 3 is for cases where there is no goods nor services. Okay, there is no supply of goods nor supply of services, on that GST will not be payable. So this we understood, right? Now, parameters of supply, again recapitulating. 7.1a says supply of goods or services for a consideration and in the course of business is 7.1a. Activities of transactions of a club of association is 7.1 AA. Import of services for consideration, even if not in the course of business, is 7.1 B. Supply without consideration is 7.1 C, which is read along with Schedule 1. No supplies is Schedule 3, read with 7.2. And activities to be treated as supply of goods or services is determined by 7.1 A in the Schedule 2. Clear hai yahan tak? Everything going smoothly, right? Okay. So that is the definition of supply, which is very important. Sir, in Schedule 3, also called exempt supply, or exempt supply is different from Schedule 3. No, Schedule 3 is not exempt supply. What is exempt supply is given through an exemption notification. Whatever is given in the exemption notification and the rate is mentioned zero, that is exempted. Schedule 3 is not a exemption. It is a out of scope supply. It is not a exempted supply. Definition of goods and services. Let's see this here. Goods means supply of any goods and things like that, goods and services. But money and securities are both excluded from the definition of goods and services. Anything which is neither goods or services is not a supply. So it should be either goods or services. If it is goods and services, or if it's goods or services, or only services, it is a supply. If it is neither goods nor services, then it's not a supply. Okay. Goods means every kind of movable property. Services means anything other than goods. Both of them excludes money and securities. Goods specifically includes actionable claim, right? Because lotteries and all we have said actionable claims. So they're all goods. Okay. And growing crops, grass and things forming part of the land which are agreed to be cut, which are agreed to be severed, they are also goods. And services includes activities relating to use of money or conversion of money. That is also services. Supply examples I've given. Let's understand this briefly. Mr. A buys a table for 10,000 rupees for his personal use. So can he say I bought for my personal use, so no GST? No. Supplier will charge GST. But when he sells it off after 10 months of use, then this is not considered as a supply under GST, as this is not done by Mr. A for the furtherance of his business. He's not doing business for it. Just one time activity is done. So this is not treated as a supply when this Mr. A sells it. Okay. Then Mr. B provides free coaching to his neighboring students. Will it be attract GST or no? This is not considered as supply because consideration is important. Here is giving free coaching, so there is no consideration, no GST. When a new mobile is purchased and old is given, that is also a supply because that's an example of an exchange. And when a laptop is supplied along with the barter of a printer and some extra money, that is the example of barter. Okay. If there is no additional amount, like in the first example, old mobiles plus some amount, that's an example of exchange. When you're exchanging a laptop for a printer, no money is given. That's an example of barter. Why we are discussing this? Because supply includes 8 forms of supply: sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, lease, license, and rental. All of these 8 forms are supply. Katrina Kaif uses the service of a makeup artist from USA. Okay. Now she's paying some consideration. She has to pay GST. Yes, she has to pay GST because import of services for consideration is liable to GST. Clear with this example, the concept of supply? Okay, very good. Next is the concept of consideration. Consideration means payment. Now, consideration need not always be monetary. If you're supplying some goods, we said that consideration is required. Now, consideration can be monetary or non-monetary, but he has to give some consideration. It can be non-monetary consideration also. He can pay it in kind. He can give something in return. All of that is consideration for what purpose you're supplying. If that purpose is not free, right, then it is fine that you're getting consideration in other than money mode also is permitted. Consideration can also be in non-monetary form. Consideration can flow from any person other than the recipient. Consideration need not always flow from the recipient. It can be made by a third party also. Subsidy given by the central government or state government is not a supply. Consideration given by if there's any subsidy given by the central government and state government, then it's not a supply. But any subsidy given by anybody else, like Melinda Foundation, they generally give a lot of subsidies. When they give some subsidy, it is still a supply because they are not government. A deposit will not be a supply, will not be considered as a consideration, but if you use the deposit for your supply value, then it will be treated as a consideration. Consideration has to be quid pro quo. That is, when you give something, something has to come. That is a very important. Like just I'm giving money to somebody, like donation. Is it a consideration? No, because I'm not expecting anything from that charity. That's a charitable, it is a non-quid pro quo. But if the consideration has to be there, you're giving something, expecting something in return, then it's a quid pro quo. That is the basics of the consideration. Please explain second last point again. Yes, deposit, sir. I have a dealer. I am a dealer of TVS. If I have to take dealership to TVS company, I have to give deposit. So I've given 50 lakh rupees deposit. Is it a consideration? No, it's not a consideration because it's a deposit. And once my agreement terminates, they will return back to me. So it's only a deposit for my safety. But I bought some scooters from them and I've not paid money. And they've been following up. I'm not responding at all. Then they are utilizing the deposit for the sale of scooters. They will also wait. They will try to recover from me. If I'm not happening, then they will use the deposit. So when such deposit is utilized for the supply, then it will be treated as a consideration. Till then, it is not treated as a consideration. That is what is saying on the second last point. So if deposit is refundable, then is not a consideration. Yeah, even refundable, non-refundable, it is not, because they've just said deposit. The nature of deposit itself is with Sindhu that it may be refundable or it may not be refundable. You have both the cases. Donations, they are generally one-sided, but what they're saying is if the donation is made to a charitable organization, payment has a character of gift, then it is philanthropic, nothing. But if you're expecting, no, I'm giving you donation, you have to do marketing for me, you have to use my name everywhere, lot of things you have to do, then it is not a donation. You have to understand the intention. If the intention is pure donation, then it is not a consideration. But if the payment is that they have to give something to me, give me some benefit, then it is not a donation, it is a consideration. Artwork. When you go to art gallery, you'll only see the artwork and come. So the person who's doing the art, for him, is it a supply? No, because he's not getting any consideration. You go to the art gallery, pay entrance fees. That also he will not get. That the person who is holding that stall, he will only get it. So art exhibition, that art painting, what we simply go see, don't understand and come. But if somebody understands and buys it, then only it is a supply. Till then, it is not a supply. Okay. Next, no claim bonus. You have your vehicle insurance. A vehicle insurance, when you renew next year, you see that they will give you a deduction of 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 150 rupees, 200 rupees they will give. So that's called as no claim bonus, that you didn't make any accident. So the company is happy and they're giving you no claim bonus. For the GST authority said, we will charge GST on this. Then the government has clarified that, Baba, no claim bonus is not a consideration, it's a discount. The vehicle person did not want to not claim it. Just that he was driving very well and he did not meet with any accident, so he did not claim it. So you cannot call this no claim bonus as a consideration. It is not a obligation that no, I will not do it. It is just that by coincidence, I was writing very carefully, no accident has happened. That's all. So you cannot treat no claim bonus as a consideration. It is a deduction from the value. So if my insurance is 10,000 this year, next time I did not claim this year, I did not claim anything. Next year my premium will be 10,000 minus 50 rupees discount. That's all. So my sale GST will be on 9,950 rupees. Fine. Yeah, Schedule 1 activities, we know that when there is a disposal or transfer of business asset, we said no, Schedule 1 transactions, even if there's no consideration, it's a supply. What are those Schedule 1 activities? These are the Schedule 1 activities, disposal of assets. Okay, disposal of assets. When you're disposing of the assets, that is a permanent transfer, and then it's a Schedule 1 activity. When you're supplying, but you have claimed ITC. You have to claim the input tax when you have bought it. Now you're selling it without consideration, then it is a liable to GST. Supply between related persons are liable, but there is exception that you can give gifts up to 50,000 rupees by an employer to employee. Because transaction between employer and employee is not liable to GST, they can give gifts, but that gift should not exceed to the value exceed more than rupees 50,000 rupees. Principal to agent is also treated as a Schedule 1 transaction. Importation of services. Importation from related persons outside India is also liable to GST, even if there is no consideration. Then definition of related persons, we know this. Distinct person. This we have to understand that when you have a registered head office in Delhi and a registered branch office in West Bengal, any transaction between them is liable to GST. Why? Because they are treated as distinct person. Then registered restaurant in Maharashtra providing to unregistered liquor shop in Uttarakhand. This is also a distinct person because they are in different states. If you are in either in same state having two separate registration or in one state and another state, whether registered, first example is registered, second example is unregistered, still they are treated as establishment of distinct persons only. So any sale you make, branch transfer you make between Delhi to that branch, GST will be payable. But Lucknow and Delhi stock transfer, it is a deemed supply. But Lucknow to Kanpur, you have taken only one registration. Lucknow and Kanpur are in one state only. In that case, if they are doing any stock transfer, then no GST. Understood this? Very important. This is that in multiple choice questions or in major questions, it may come up saying that whether this is treated as a distinct person, you have to pay GST. If you have taken one registration in one state, having multiple branches, no GST. But in one state, you have two separate registration, then GST is payable. Like here I'm saying, they have PAN, same PAN, yes, sir. Separate registration has been obtained, no. Then no GST. Same PAN, no. You have taken separate registrations, yes. Then there is a GST on this. Perfect. If you have understood this, very nice. These are all fine. Employer, employee salary, no transaction. Yeah. Schedule 3 says that employer to employee, no GST. But if you give any perquisites, it will not be subjected to GST when the same are provided in terms of a contract. Like in your contract only, you have said we'll provide you car. So because you are an employee, we are giving you car. So it's clarified that if a perquisite is linked to the employment terms, then no GST on that. Like free housing of to all employees, all of this on no GST. But if some special perquisites is given outside the employment contract, then GST will apply. Principal to agent. Now, principal to agent also will become liable to GST when the invoice is issued by the agent to the customer in the name of principal, then no GST. But if agent is issuing invoice to the customer in his own name, then GST will apply. So, if the principal is acting as an agent on behalf of the principal, there could be two types of agencies. That is, he is acting as a pure agent of the principal. Then no GST. But if he is acting as a agent, but he's raising invoice in his own name, then he has independence. Then GST will be payable. Importation of services, this slide you have to just remember that if there is any importation of services and consideration is present, and if it is in the course of burden of business, definitely taxable. Second is if the consideration is present but not in the course of business, then it is taxable because schedule we had read no under definition of 7(1)(b) itself, it says that if the consideration is present not in the course of further business, then it is liable. Now let's take a case where consideration is not present, but it is in the course of further business. Will it be taxable? Schedule 1 says it will be taxable if it is from an establishment located outside India who is related. If you are related, then GST will be payable, otherwise not. If the consideration is there and not in the course of furtherance of business, consideration also is not there, it is not in the course of furtherance of business, then it is not taxable. Clear till here? Yeah. About del credar agent, yes, Ram, I will take you to the del credar agent concept and then we'll take a break. So del credar agent is one who is assuring that he will give you the payments. He will get the payment from the customer. So his commission also is high, right? So in case of a del credar agent, if he is falling under this or no, first you have to decide whether he is raising invoice independently or as an agent. If he is acting as an agent raising invoice in his own name, then this para 3 will apply firstly. Once that is determined, if the interest is what he is charging, if he's being charged by the supplier itself, then it will be added to the value of the supply. But if he is the del credar agent is giving that provision as a loan to the buyer, then you don't have to add it, right? Because what is the role of the agent? The del credar agent is he giving the amount as a loan, then you don't have to add his interest to the value of supply. But if he is not giving it as a loan, he the in your invoice only you are collecting the interest, then it has to be added to the value of supply. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take a break here, then we'll come back and discuss importation of services slide. I will leave you, and then we'll discuss on other aspects. Okay, we'll take a break of 10 minutes here. Yeah, we can continue. So we were discussing on importation of services. Please explain about schedule to liquidated damages. Yes, I will discuss on that. Is it part of your study material? Because some updation happened, Mr. Ram, on liquidated damages. I'll just go to that slide so that we can cover that first. Yeah. Agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act or to tolerate an act is classified as supply of services, right? Like in Schedule 2, you have to classify. So 5E1 line is agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act. Okay. So there, what all things are covered is agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act will be non-compete agreement. The example will be builder is refraining from constructing more than a certain number of floors. Okay. So he is agreeing to the obligation to refrain from doing a positive act. He can construct 10 floors, but the neighborhood is saying no, construct only 6 floors, we'll give you the consideration. So that is an obligation to refrain from an act liable to GST, but there should be a consideration for all of these things. Next is agreeing to the obligation to tolerate an act, wherein a shopkeeper is there. He is allowing a hawker, a gadiwala, to operate from the common pavement. That is agreeing to the obligation that, okay, you can stand here for which you have to pay me some money. Otherwise, my customers cannot walk in. Okay. So he's agreeing, the shopkeeper is agreeing to the obligation to tolerate that person here. That is also a consideration. That is also a supply. Agreeing to the obligation to do an act. Industrial unit agrees to install equipment for zero emission at the behest of a residential welfare association, saying that when you are disposing of the waste, please use a equipment so that waste is not getting coming to the common areas. So all of this is agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act, or to tolerate an act, or to a situation, or to do an act. All of this is a transaction under Schedule 2. Okay. There has to be a contract or express or implied agreement, and consideration must flow. Only then it is treated as a supply of service. Okay. But in case of liquidated damages, it is different. It is none of these activities. That's why liquidated damages, on that they have clarified that there will not be any GST on liquidated damages. Fine. So we need Schedule 1, Schedule 2 classification. Now Schedule 3, or what is non-supplies under GST, saying that the non-supplies under GST can be because of things which are coming in Schedule 3, or it could come because there is a notification which is exempting it, or it can come as a way of a clarification. So when it's coming as Schedule 3, which is saying that there is no GST and there is treated neither as supply of goods and services, those activities are employee providing services to the employer. And consideration, what he's getting salary as a consideration. So such salary is not liable to GST. Second, activity of a court or tribunal is non-supplies. Then the functions performed by the MP and MLA, जिसके लिए उनको कंसिडरेशन मिलता है, दैट इज ऑल्सो नॉट अ सप्लाई. तो एमपी एमएलए को जीएसटी पे करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Any funeral, burial, or crematorium activities, right? Devas jab ho jata hai, when somebody is dead, you conduct burial services, funeral for them. That is also not liable to GST. Then sale of land subject to Schedule 2, 5B, sale of building. Sale of land is outside, but subject to Schedule 2. Schedule 2 में क्या बोलता है कि construction of a building is liable. So construction of a building is liable to GST, but sale of land is outside the GST. And actionable claims are also outside GST other than the specified actionable claims, which we have read, right? Lottery, gambling, casinos, all of that is liable. Apart from that, all other actionable claims is not liable to GST. Clear here? So Schedule 3 says on these activities there is no GST. And secondly, Yeah, specified actionable claims is betting, gambling, lottery, casinos, horse racing, and online money gaming. On this, GST is there. Apart from that, everything else is not liable to GST. All other actionable claims is not liable to GST. Next, what else is non-supplies? One is Schedule 3, we understood. Then through a notification. Through notification, they have said that any panchayat and municipality functions is also not liable to GST. And alcoholic liquor license. Alcoholic liquor is definitely outside GST. But if you want to run an alcoholic shop, you have to get the license from the government. The government will give the license. On that, GST will apply. This notification is clarifying no, on alcoholic definitely there is no GST. Alcoholic liquor license के ऊपर भी GST नहीं. Okay. Next, through notifications, they have given two things. Then through clarifications, they have clarified that interstate movement of conveyance, that is vehicles from one state to other state when they are moving, there is no GST because they're carrying passengers, they are doing some transportation. There is a supply inside it, but lorry, you have to transport your goods. Okay, you're seller of books. You want to sell your books through a lorry. Now, this lorry is moving from one state to another state. So, will it be called as supply? No, it is not a supply because it's only a method or mode through which the goods are being sent. That is not a supply by itself. Similarly, interstate movements of rigs, tools, spares are goods on wheels. That is, any repair items, whatever is being supplied on the vehicles, on the wheels, on the vehicles is not liable to GST. That also is not liable to GST. Then composite supply. Now we understood supply. Now we'll go to composite supply. What is composite supply? When there is a supply made of by a taxable person to a recipient, which comprises of two or more taxable supplies or any combination which are naturally bundled, then it is treated as a composite supply. When two or more materials are bundled together, then it's a composite supply. Then what will be the GST rate? The rate of the principal supply will be treated as the GST rate for the whole thing. Okay, like a air conditioner when you're buying. Along with air conditioner installation also, you have to take from that company only because they have specialized methodology. You cannot call a local carpenter or a local urban club company to fit it. Specialized air conditioner needs specialized technicians. So they will send their technician and they will tell we will charge 1000 rupees. Say on air conditioner, GST rate is 5%. And the labor charges 1000 on supply of services, it is 18%. So what should be the GST rate on air conditioner value and on the installation value? Right. Apeksha, Ram, Almas, thanks for your answers. The rate, what is there for the principal supply that will apply. Since the principal supply is air conditioner, the rate is 5%. So the rate for air conditioner will be the same rate for the whole installation also. So that is how the composite supply has to be worked out at. Yeah, various reasons. How do you classify the composite supply? Yeah, like printing of books. Printing of books where the content is supplied by the publisher to the publishing of the publishing rights, and the supply of printing is the principal supply because I have my content. You have to only print this and give me. So it is a supply of service because you're just doing a printing service. But if there is printing of envelopes, letterheads on the cars, letter cards, basically, not cards, letter cards, napkins using products of yours. So it means only logo I'm giving, but majorly you're giving me material. So it is the composite supply. The principal supply is material. So the composite supply is so very important to determine whether it is supply of goods or services. Okay. Next, food supply to patients. If it is food supply to patients, hospital service are exempted, right? Now, if hospital services are exempted and the hospital gives foods to patients, okay, then it is part of the hospital service itself. So on food supply, there will not be any GST because it is a composite supply of healthcare services and healthcare services exempted. So food also will become exempted. Then bus bodybuilding, whether it's goods or services, depends. If you are giving all the materials, that bus bodybuilder is doing his labor work of installing the bus on the chassis, then it is labor. But you are telling him, no, no, you only procure everything, then it is supply of goods. Then retreading of tires. If it is retreading of tires, old tires you are giving him, he's only retreading, then it is supply of service. But if it is that old tires are provided by the retreading company or supplier itself is giving the retread tires, retreading means threading tires which are worn out on the threading has to be done. That is called as rethreading of tires. Then food and beverages supplied at cinema hall. Is there taxable as restaurant services? They've said if you're selling separately, you're buying popcorn. On that popcorn, you are treated as a restaurant service. But if it is, they will give this combos nowadays. If it is a combo, that is when if it is clubbed and supplied together, then it is a composite supply. Main is selling of ticket. Even though the ticket price may be less, popcorn price may be higher, right? In these multiplexes, now you have seen that popcorn is like going minimum 500 rupees for small bowl, 600 rupees you'll get unlimited. So you will naturally go for 600 rupees and buy that unlimited. How much you can eat, that much only you can eat. But now if they club and give it to you along with ticket, then the principal supply is popcorn or the cinema theater. Yes. Popcorn, you're not going there for the eating popcorn. Popcorn you can find elsewhere also. You are going there to correct Apeksha and Ram. You're going to watch the cinema. So what is the composite? In this is a composite supply. The principal supply is selling of cinema ticket. So GST on the cinema ticket will apply on the popcorn also. Mixed supply, when there are two or more supplies, but they are not naturally bundled. If it is naturally bundled, then it is composite supply. If it is not naturally bundled, opposite of natural is artificial. So if it is artificially bundled, then what will be the GST rate? Whatever is the individual rates that will apply, but the rate will be whatever is the highest rate. Say typical example I give you that air conditioning and installation is composite supply, but when it comes to soap, you can buy soap separately, toothpaste separately. But now these big companies will make it as a package and give it to you. They are not naturally bundled because individually also you can buy. So when they're packing it, they are artificially bundling it. It becomes a mixed supply. Whatever is the highest rate, say toothpaste is 12% and soap is 5%. 12% will apply on the whole package. That is what is mixed supply. Okay. Sir, but customer did not ask to bundle. The supplier is bundled. Correct. So when the supplier is bundled, then supplier, see, always it is from the supplier's perspective, not the customer's perspective. How the supplier supplied it, he has bundled it, so he will charge the highest rate because the onus of tax is on the supplier. How he makes the transaction, that is the way GST will be charged. Okay. Next, getting into charge of GST. Now, charge of GST, important aspect we'll see because we have to take some MCQs also last 10 minutes. So, very important here, important concepts we will understand. When will you treat a transaction as an interstate supply or an interstate supply? There are only two aspects you have to look. What is the location of the supplier and what is the place of supply? Okay. To decide whether you have to, whether it is an interstate transaction, you have to decide based on only two things, where the location of supplier and place of supply both are in the same state. Then it is a intrastate supply and you will charge CGST and SGST. Location of supplier and place of supply same state, then it's a intrastate supply, CGST and SGST. When the location of supplier and place of supply are in two different states, then you will charge, it is an interstate supply and you will charge IGST. I know this is very simple concept, but when we get little tricky, we get mixed up, but be careful. Just two things you have to remember, location of supplier and place of supply. What is India? India's definition is land mass up to 12 nautical miles. Above that, beyond that, contiguous zone is 12 miles after the territorial seawater. Then exclusive economic zone is up to 200 nautical miles. And after that starts the high sea. So any transaction in this high sea is not liable to GST. Any transactions within the Indian borders. So that is land mass up to 12 miles and up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline. This is a Indian territory. Now, Section 9, there is an amendment because Section 9 is the levy provision. Earlier, what was leviable was provision to subject to provisions of subsection 2. There shall be levied a tax called the Central Goods and Service Tax on all intrastate supplies of goods, except on the supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So, except on the supply of alcoholic for human consumption, everything else was liable to GST. Now they have added that except for supply of alcoholic liquor and undenatured extra neutral alcohol or rectified spirit used for manufacture of alcohol. So these two products, undenatured extra neutral alcohol, okay, and rectified spirit, these are the raw materials for preparing alcohol. These things also will be outside the scope of GST. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption was already there from 1st July 2017. In 2024, they made this amendment and added these products, that is undenatured extra neutral alcohol and rectified spirit. They are raw materials for making alcohol. They are also outside the scope of GST. Yes, this is applicable for Jan 2026. Yes, it will be applicable because the amendment happened in 24, passed in 25. So this is applicable for Jan 26 also. And the central government, central tax on supply of 5 petroleum products will be postponed. They will be levied at the later point of time. So almost 8 years over on these petroleum products, GST is not yet applicable. Then reverse charge also is decided under 9.3 and some side of reverse charge is there also there under 9.4. So what we'll do is main supply we know. What is the GST rate we know. Reverse charge is very, very important. Now reverse charge notification also we will see, so that we will understand this concept in a better manner because RCM is more important here than anything else. And what are the amendments in the RCM notifications that we will see. Yes, RCM notifications, are you able to see? Important in the order of importance, I'm going not according to serial number wise. So importance under RCM is services provided by an individual advocate or a senior advocate. When the advocate is providing services to a business entity, then the business entity will pay the GST under reverse charge. Similarly, any arbitral tribunal providing services to a arbiter to any company, the company will pay the reverse charge. Next important one is services provided by way of sponsorship to any body corporate or partnership firm. Okay. Services provided by way of sponsorship when the supplier is any person and the recipient is a body corporate, then the body corporate will pay the GST under reverse charge basis. Okay. So you're understanding this, that when a sponsorship amount is there, that is under reverse charge. Now to understand this, so there is a sports body. Okay. This is any person and who is conducting a sporting event. Say they are holding a kabaddi match. Now they want sponsors. Okay. Now they go to Tata and Tata is sponsoring. Now in this case, who will pay the reverse charge tax? Because this is a sponsorship. Tata is sponsoring the sports body, the kabaddi match. Now, who will pay the GST? Yes. Tata will pay the GST. Okay. Others, Gulika Berwal is saying Tata will pay the GST. Ram is saying Tata will pay the GST, but who is the receiver? Right? Forget Tata because just Tata is a company, so you're saying it. Who is the supplier? Who is the receiver? Who is the supplier? Who is the receiver? Because we are talking about reverse charge. Is Tata the receiver or Tata is the supplier? That is my primary question. Tata is the recipient. Supplier is Tata, so on the reverse charge, sport body will pay. That is what Gulika is saying. Supplier. Pallavi is saying Tata is the supplier. Most of you are saying that Tata is the supplier. So if the Tata is supplier, Tata cannot pay GST. Correct? Because for sponsorship, we have said that recipient will pay the GST. Correct? So if that be the case, then you have to clear your understanding. Who is the supplier? Who is the recipient? Tata is not the supplier, Tata is the receiver because Tata is paying the consideration. Sports body is supplying the work. Tata is the sponsor. He is making payment. He is not the supplier. What is he supplying? He is only supplying money. And money is not a goods, not services. Right? That we know from the definition of goods and services. So Tata is not the supplier. Don't get confused that Tata is sponsoring, so he is the supplier. Tata is sponsoring because he is receiving. Now, when you go to a shop, you will pay money and get something. So, are you a supplier or receiver? You are a receiver. Similarly, in this case, Tata is paying the sponsor, but it is not a supplier, it's the receiver. So that's why, since the receiver is a body corporate and supplier is not a body corporate, if supplier itself, the organization of that sporting event is conducted by a company, then that company will pay GST under forward charge. But in this case, sports body is a supplier, is any person other than the body corporate, and the body corporate is the receiver, which is Tata. So reverse charge will be paid by Tata itself. Clear? So when the consideration goes, you are a receiver because you're receiving, that's why you're paying the consideration. Always understand that supplier, the consideration will move in the opposite direction of the consideration goes, he's the receiver, who receives, he's the supplier. Okay. Now doubts clear? Next, services supplied by the central government to any business entity, and the business entity will have to pay GST under reverse charge basis, except renting of immovable property and railway services. But in case of renting of immovable property, we have separate category wherein if it is a residential dwelling, if you are taking a residential house and staying in it, then will you pay GST? No, because it's a residential dwelling. But if a residential dwelling is taken by a registered person, then the registered person, okay, registered person will pay the GST. If you're taking a rent of a house by a registered person, then the registered person is using for his business, so he will pay GST under residential dwelling. Otherwise, he will not. But if it's a commercial building, if it's a commercial building, then if the supplier is registered, he will pay. If the supplier is unregistered, okay, then the recipient has to pay. Now, this recipient also, there is amendment. If the recipient is a person, then the person should be registered, but not registered under composition scheme. If he's registered under composition scheme, then he need not pay. And supplier is unregistered, he will not pay. Yes, he will also not pay. Clear? So renting, two parts. First of all, residential renting and commercial renting. If it's a residential rent, supplier will never pay because supplier need not pay. It says any person. It means any person, whether is registered or unregistered, doesn't matter. If you're giving your house for rent, okay, you don't have to charge GST. Now, if a company is also giving a house for rent, they do not charge GST. The recipient only will always pay for residential. For commercial, if the supplier, so commercial means shop, office, all those things. So when that commercial person is supplying, if he is registered, if he's having rent more than 20 lakhs, then he will register and he will pay. Now his rent is less, he is not registered, then the receiver will pay. Now this receiver should be a normal registered person. If he is a composition taxable person, composite registration we get, right? That person need not pay the GST. Clear? This is very important. Spend some time on residential thing. I'm sure there'll be some question on this because multiple amendments has happened on this. Just clear with residential thing. Sir, if unregistered person renting to unregistered person, will it be under RCM? Which one is it, residential dwelling or unregistered? Both. Both also, if it is from unregistered to unregistered, neither no reverse charge, neither under forward charge also. because either the recipient has to be registered or the supplier should be registered in case of commercial. But in case of residential, if both are unregistered, no GST. Okay. Next, director services. When a service is supplied by a director, and when what will the director provide services as? Sitting fees, director remuneration. Okay, all of things are there. But we know when salary is paid, then there is no GST. So if the director is getting the remuneration as a salary, then no GST. But if the director is getting remuneration as professional fees, then GST will apply. How do we decide that? By section form 16. If the TDS certificate under income tax is given under section 192, it means it is salary, no GST applicable. If it is under 194J, TDS deducted under 194J, then it's a professional services, GST under reverse charge will apply. Okay, that's the criteria to decide what is the GST payable. Then security services, any person other than the body corporate. Security services are provided by a security agency. Now that security agency is a partnership firm. Then the recipient has to pay. But that security agency is run by a company. Then the company will pay under forward charge. Other things, GTA providing services to a recipient will have to pay. And other things are all simple, not to worry. Now we'll come back to our main slides. And we will now discuss on the important aspects and the MCQs. So MCQs will give clarity on major things. Reverse charge we understood. Next is on e-commerce. Now e-commerce, there are specified e-commerce operators, that is transportation of passengers like Ola, Uber. Then on these specified only four categories of e-commerce transactions, GST will be paid by the e-commerce operator itself. Like if you buy some goods on Amazon, will the Amazon pay GST on behalf of the supplier? No, because they are not under this category. If they are under this category, only then the e-commerce operator will pay, like Uber and Ola. They will pay GST on behalf of the cab driver. Okay, providing accommodation, hotels, inns, guest house. Make My Trip. If any hotels you are booking through Make My Trip, then Make My Trip will be responsible for paying GST unless the hotel itself is registered. Any person except who is liable for registration. That is, if hotel is registered, they will pay. Otherwise, then the Make My Trip only will pay. Services by way of housekeeping such as plumbing, carpentering. Typical cases our Chota Ramu, Urban Clap. These people providing services. Who is providing the services? That local person, that carpenter, plumber providing services. Whether he'll pay GST or no, not sure. That's why those persons GST will be paid by this e-commerce operator itself. Then supply of restaurant services, hotels. If hotel is registered, okay, still they will not pay because whether they're paying GST or no, they don't know. So in case of hotels, GST will be paid by this e-commerce operator itself. Clear here? That only in these four specified cases, GST will be paid by the e-commerce operator. Amazon, Flipkart, whatever you're purchasing, they are not under this list. The supplier who's supplying the goods, they will only charge the GST. Okay, composition scheme, you know, right? That very simple. Composition scheme is where you're having turnover up to 1.5 crores. And for special category state, 75 lakhs. Then you can register under composition scheme. Instead of paying 12%, 5%, 18%, 28%, just pay 1% and be happy. So composition scheme gives you benefit. But the disadvantage is input tax credit is not there. That's still fine. Okay, if you're supplier of goods, want to register under composition scheme, pay 1%, be happy. And if your composition scheme for services, then the limit is 50 lakh rupees. GST rate will be 6%. That's all. Sir, about marketplace model and housekeeping project summary, sir. Marketplace model not required. Housing project summary. Housing projects. Housing projects, which one? Reverse charge. Reverse charge for housing projects is the GST rate for housing projects is 1% and 5%. If it is affordable, it is 1%. And if it is non-affordable, 5%. Now, the condition for them is they cannot claim ITC. So what they'll do is purchase from unregistered person. That's why they are restricted, saying that ITC is not claimable. But you have to make 80% purchase from inputs or input services. Total should be from registered person. Even though you don't get ITC, you have to maintain records and ensure that 80% of your purchases are from registered person. Now, if you have shortfall, saying that only 70% you have purchased from registered, they gave you 80%, 70% only purchase from registered. So to the extent of 10% shortfall, you have to pay reverse charge. Who? That builder. Because this apply to builder only. So he will pay tax under reverse charge on that differential 10%. So if it is purchase 90% from registered, no problem. Up to 80% he can purchase from registered person. But if he is shortfall, say 60% only he purchased. So to the extent of 20%, he has to pay GST on reverse charge basis at 18%. Now, if that cement is purchased from unregistered person, pay tax at 28%. Clear?
Yeah, good
Yes.
evening, students. Before you answer this MCQ, very good session. Yes, I would like to say all the key points have already been taken by the sir, and be there in all the LVRC sessions because you will be able to revise the concepts very thoroughly. Reverse charge services taxable under reverse charge supplies is one of the topic where students generally get stuck. We get a lot of queries on this topic, so I hope that it is clear by now, and you will be able to answer all the multiple choice questions which sir is raising to you. Um, I hope am I audible to all of you? Okay, yeah, one important announcement I would like to make is that on 18th of November, that is on coming Tuesday, there is a fortnight program where all exam related strategies, all the topics where students are generally getting a lot of queries where they feel themselves stuck in the examination, time management, commonly committed errors. They shall be taken with you, and you are invited for that session. The link has already been there. You can join through the Zoom link also, and you may refer ICAI website also for the link. And the session is at 3 p.m. Please note the time, 3 p.m. and not the date. On Tuesday, 18th of November, coming Tuesday, 3 p.m., there will be a fortnight session for intermediate paper 3B. Deepak sir will be there, and I will also be there along with the one more eminent experts, council member. So please be there and see you in the session. Now you may continue with the answering the MCQ.
Thank you, ma'am. So yes, the answer for this is A. So the answer for this is B, first question, because import of service is treated as supply even if it is not received in the course of furtherance of business. So answer is B. Yeah, this is a very interesting question. Answer is B. Oh, it's already written. Yes, since ITC was not claimed and there is no consideration. Why ITC was not claimed? Because GST came in 2017 and this was purchased in 2015. So that's the reason ITC was not claimed. So you have to also know the reason, not just because I've given the answer, you can just repeat the answer. So if ITC is claimed and they are disposing of, then it is treated as a supply. If ITC is not claimed, then it is not a supply. If no mention is made about ITC, can we assume? Yes, you can make a assumption. If it is a descriptive answer, you can make an assumption. But otherwise, if it's a multiple choice question, the question will be clear. Good, Ram. Good question. Which of the following activities are not treated as a supply? D. Wrong answer, Pallavi. C. All questions are not understood. Okay, I'll explain this question. See, supply of goods between principal and agent without consideration is treated as a supply because Schedule 1 says it, right? Subject to the condition that agent doesn't raise an invoice in his own name. But supply of services with consideration, third one, this is also supply because it is with consideration, no doubt. But supply of services between principal agent without consideration, this is not specified under Schedule 1 because Schedule 1 says only of supply of goods. So this is a supply, this is a supply. This one is the only one which is not a supply. So answer is B. Okay. Answer is B because supply of services is without consideration. This is not treated as a supply. Other two are treated as a supply. That is the reason. Yeah. This will be the next question. Yeah, very confusing, but yes, most of you have given answer correctly. Even though paper is used for printing, supply of printing is a principal supply, therefore treated as a supply of service. This is the correct answer. Last MCQ for the day. Yes. Correct answer is B. Right. You're all right. Because A and B are treated as distinct person, even though it is one person having two branches, they're treated as distinct person. It's a supply of service. So they are treated as a distinct person. So it is a supply. Okay. Thank you very much for your kind patience and your response in MCQs. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next session. Yes, sir.